Imagine a quiet man in a modest Palo Alto apartment, a coffee cup steaming at dawn, a worn Bible open beside a glowing laptop. He is not a headline magnate, not a charismatic CEO, but a diligent engineer named Ethan Carter, whose life has always revolved around timing diagrams, neat rows of circuit boards, and the soothing hum of machines performing exactly as designed. Ethan's mornings begin with a ritual older than any silicon wafer. He lifts the heavy cover of his Bible, reads a psalm or a gospel passage, and lets the ancient words act as a compass, reminding him that even the most powerful semiconductors are dust in the wind. This habit, cultivated over years, grounds him in a perspective that technology is a tool, not a deity. For years, Ethan's routine remained unchanged. At 5:30 a.m., the city outside his window was still dark, but the scent of strong black coffee already filled his kitchen. He would sit at his small wooden desk, the soft glow of his monitor reflecting off his glasses, while the voice of an older preacher echoed from the pages of Psalms. "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." After the verses, he would flip to a gospel, allowing the story of the shepherd, the carpenter, the crucifixion to settle into his mind. These passages were his anchor, a reminder that the universe was larger than any chip he might design, that human frailty and divine mystery outlasted the flash of a new processor. But the world outside Ethan's door was shifting dramatically. In the year when AI chips captured every investor's imagination, headlines screamed of shortages, of nations pouring billions into research, of geopolitical battles fought over silicon. Politicians warned that whichever country controlled, AI hardware would control the future. Venture capitalists threw money into startups like sparks into a dry forest, igniting a frenzy that turned semiconductors from mere tools into symbols of power, the very bricks with which nations hoped to build their own towers of dominance. This fevered atmosphere seeped into every coffee shop, every conference room, every late-night coding sprint. And it was in this context that a recruiter reached out to Ethan with an offer that seemed almost impossible to refuse. The recruiter's voice crackled with excitement as he described a stealth mode company forming in San Jose called Babel Labs. "We're not just another startup," he said. "We're writing history. Our mission is to design and manufacture the most advanced AI accelerator chip entirely on American soil. No more dependency. No more foreign bottlenecks. This is about freedom, power, destiny. Don't you want to be part of it?" Ethan frowned at the name, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Babel," he asked. "You do realize that's a biblical reference, right? The Tower of Babel." The recruiter chuckled. "Sure, but to us it means bringing the best minds together, building the future. Don't overthink it." Within weeks, Ethan found himself walking through the gleaming glass facade of Babel Labs headquarters, his badge clipped to his shirt, his eyes taking in a vast open floor where rows of screens pulsed with code and engineers whispered ambitious plans. The lobby displayed a bold mission statement: to build a tower of innovation that lifts our nation to the heights. The words unsettled him, echoing a story he had read countless times. That night, after his first day, Ethan returned to his kitchen table. The Bible opened to Genesis chapter 11, and he read the passage slowly, as though each word were a living ember. He imagined the plain of Shinar, the bricks, the fire, the ambition that reached toward heaven, and felt the weight of that ancient warning settle in his chest. He visualized the people of Shinar under a blazing sun, gathering clay to shape bricks, stacking them into kilns, watching the flames turn the mud into hardened blocks. One builder lifted a brick, marveled at its strength, and declared that stone was unnecessary when they could make as many as they desired. Their leader, Nimrod, stood proud, his eyes glittering with the promise of greatness. He raised his voice, urging them to build not a house, not a city, but a tower so tall it would pierce the heavens, a monument to a name that would never be forgotten, a statement that they would never be scattered across the earth. A cheer rose, hammers rang, mortar smeared, and the tower rose like a spear against the sky, its shadow stretching far across the plain. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Travelers from distant lands arrived, marveling at the colossal structure, proclaiming that nothing would be impossible for these men. They worked with one language, one purpose, building higher and higher, until the Lord looked down from the heavens and observed their unity and relentless ambition. He warned that this was only the beginning of what they would do, that nothing they proposed would be impossible for them. And so he said, "Come, let us go down and confuse their speech so that they may not understand one another's words." The next morning, chaos erupted. A mason's call for stone quickly turned into garbled sounds. Confusion spread, instructions turned to noise, and the tower, once a monument to pride, collapsed into an unfinished skeleton, a reminder that pride without humility leads to ruin. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the story's weight press against his own reality. He saw the glowing floor of Babel Labs, engineers speaking a common language of acronyms and code, leaders proclaiming, "We will make a name for ourselves." The parallels pressed hard against his conscience, like a stone weight in his gut. He whispered into the silence of his apartment, "Lord, are we building Babel again?" The weeks blurred into months. Deadlines stacked higher than the imagined tower. Investors pressed harder, demanding faster tape-outs, while overseas competitors loomed like shadows on the horizon. The CEO of Babel Labs in every all-hands meeting repeated a mantra, "We will be the first. We will not depend on anyone else. Nothing will stop us." At first, the engineers surged with zeal. Circuits aligned, simulations passed, and the first prototype seemed within reach. But then cracks appeared. A vendor updated a critical library without notice, causing timing that had been perfect to collapse into chaos. Two teams defined latency differently, one in cycles, the other in nanoseconds, causing integration failures that set progress back days. Firmware engineers forked an internal tool without informing the hardware team, unraveling weeks of work in a single night. Arguments flared in Slack channels, apologies filled inboxes, and the damage spread like a viral infection. Misunderstandings grew like weeds, confusion multiplied, and the harmonious language that once seemed so promising began to fracture. Ethan remembered Shinar, the scattered men shouting in strange tongues, unable to finish what pride had begun. One night, weary from 12 hours of conflict, he turned not to Genesis but to Acts chapter 2. He read about Pentecost. Jerusalem, 50 days after the resurrection, disciples gathered in a dim room, hearts heavy with uncertainty, speaking quietly in Galilean accents. Suddenly, a sound like a rushing wind filled the house. Flames descended and rested upon each of them, and they opened their mouths to speak in languages they had never learned. Aramaic, Greek, Latin, Egyptian, Parthian. Words tumbling like rivers, yet outside, Jews from every nation gathered in awe, hearing the message in their own tongues. The narrative contrasted Babel's confusion with Pentecost's unity, showing how humility and the Spirit could bridge language barriers that human pride could not. Ethan felt his heart pound as he whispered, "Lord, if we are in Babel, send us Pentecost." The following day, during a tense project review, his manager Sarah Mitchell stood at the whiteboard and wrote one question in bold. "Are we making a name or keeping a trust?" The room fell silent. "This chip," she said, "is more than silicon. It can serve people or it can enslave them. It can heal or it can deceive. So I ask you, are we building it to make a name or to keep a trust?" Some engineers dismissed it as philosophy, but a few leaned forward. Jacob, a firmware lead, spoke up, proposing a conscience gate within the chip, a safeguard that would make deception harder. A young woman added, "Let's stop talking past each other. One glossary, one language, no more confusion." The room stirred, skepticism softened into conversation, and the spirit of Babel began to bend toward humility, toward understanding. That night, Ethan walked alone under the California stars, thinking of Shinar's unfinished tower and Jerusalem's fire-filled tongues. He saw two towers in his mind, one built for pride, abandoned in shame. The other not a tower at all, but a gathering of people empowered by spirit, ready to carry truth to the ends of the earth. He prayed softly, Lord, don't let us build Babel again. Teach us to build in your spirit, not in our pride. The work continued, slower now but steadier, imperfect but different. Engineers spoke with care, safeguards were added, and the vision shifted from making a name to keeping a trust. Ethan recalled the psalm, "Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain." Chips will fade, towers will crumble, but the spirit that brought understanding at Pentecost will endure forever.